I will start, ladies and gentlemen, with the topic concerning the ban the import of gas in any form into the territory of the European Union, with the latest date being the end, or November 1st, 2027. There are various dates, but as far as Slovakia is concerned, the relevant date for us is November 1st, 2027, when with 100% certainty, based on the valid decision of the European Union authorities, it will stop flowing. Not only to Slovakia, but to the entire European Union, gas from the Russian Federation in any form. Whether it is liquefied gas or gas that goes through traditional pipelines. I will not elaborate too much. I will not comment on it. You know my opinion. It is the completion of the EU's energy suicide, and we will all pay dearly for this foolish ideological decision. We will all pay dearly for this decision. You know, the first step that significantly harmed us was the stoppage of Russian energy transit through the territory of the Slovak Republic. This decision was made by the Ukrainian president, and this decision costs us up to 500 million euros annually. This is the loss in transit fees for the gas that we used to transport from our pipelines further into Europe. Today, as a small country, we continue to take Russian gas, although it now constitutes only a minority of the gas volume supplied, through the pipeline called Turk Stream, which goes south, through Hungary to Slovakia. But this, as I have already said, since we have long-term contracts with Russian partners, will end no later than November 1st, 2027. From that moment, we will not be able to take any gas from the Russian Federation. I will say it in Slovak, and I believe that by then the war will end, and we will all come to our senses. Because cutting ourselves off from Russian energy in this way is suicide. And it's not just me saying this. Today, even German economists are saying it. Politicians, and now also more and more politicians from the European Union. Okay, a decision was made. Nonsensical and ideological. And I want to thank all the representatives of the Slovak of the Republic who represent our country in the bodies of the European Union. Yesterday, it was also the State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Marek Estok, who directly voted against this regulation. The second country that voted against was Hungary. But that did not help, because in this case the European Commission, pardon the harsh expression, deceived everyone, since this regulation was approved by a qualified majority. We are convinced, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a standard sanction, and in the case of sanctions, unanimity is required. However, the Commission knew that if unanimity were required, such nonsense could not pass. Or there would be several countries that would either be against it or abstain from voting at the very least. Therefore, they bypassed this principle, and this regulation was approved by a qualified majority, which we consider a violation of the fundamental principles, the fundamental treaties on which the EU is based. So if we set aside what this will mean, firstly, Slovakia, which has always been at the beginning of the pipeline, is now at the end of the pipeline. We might face situations where there is not enough of the commodity. One dependency is being replaced by another. Today, Europe will be receiving massive amounts of liquefied gas from the USA. Simply put, this is not a solution for anyone. It is a solution that was adopted solely due to the reason hatred towards the human federation. I reject hatred as a quality that should dictate international relations. I want to say that we have always had correct relations with gas suppliers and Europe from the Russian Federation. They were reliable suppliers, and today we might sometimes have to rely on the willingness of Western countries to move gas further east towards us. Because a situation may arise where there isn't enough of the commodity. And then I will ask whether the countries will consider the national interests of smaller countries, like Slovakia, as nonsensical. We have to live with this nonsense. But I am proud that the Slovak Republic has been consistent on this issue. From the very beginning, we rejected this ideological nonsense. We protested at all levels, demanded legislative interventions, and yesterday's final vote confirmed our consistency, our stance when the representative of the Slovak Republic voted against this regulation. Again, I expect that by November 4, 1927, the war conflict could be ended. And write it down, everyone, when the war ends. The conflict. Everyone will break their legs rushing to Russia to do business. Once again, when the war conflict ends, everyone will break their legs rushing to the Russian Federation to do business as usual. So, business as usual. The government, the Slovak Republic, given the current situation, has decided to utilize all the resources it still has at its disposal. And that's why we decided, having discussed it twice in the government of the Slovak Republic, that we will file a lawsuit against this regulation with the Court of Justice of the European Union, located in Luxembourg. We will contest the violation of the principles of subsidiarity and proportionality. We have a very qualified document at our disposal, which will assist us, prepared in collaboration by the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs. We will seek to have this regulation declared as one that is contrary to the fundamental principles upon which the European Union is based. I want to inform you that Hungary, which also voted against this regulation, intends to file a similar lawsuit. It is not possible to file a joint lawsuit. Each country will file a lawsuit on its own, but it is quite normal that we will coordinate the arguments and reasoning of these lawsuits. Therefore, there is currently an intensive exchange of information, and we will decide in the government on the procedure for when the lawsuit will be filed. We must pay attention to deadlines and everything what is related to it. This is the sovereign, consistent position of the government of the Slovak Republic, and I reject these ideological dependencies. First, it was with the Soviet Union most of the time, then with the United States most of the time, and never otherwise. Most of the time, we must be in Slovakia only with Slovakia, our beloved homeland, and no one else. And this is the policy I will always pursue. So this is the stance on Repower EU, which I have repeatedly described as ideological nonsense, as an energy suicide, and this suicide can only be reversed by ending the war conflict.
I was in contact with the Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Peter Szijjártó, where we confirmed our coordination in filing this lawsuit, because each country must file this lawsuit individually. However, we essentially have the same conditions, although some starting points are individual in the case of Slovakia as well as Hungary. So what is the status? On February 2nd, this will be published. The regulation will take effect on February 3rd, and in that case, the Slovak Republic will start to act, which means the European Court of Justice will prepare in collaborations with the ministry responsible for its content, which is the Ministry of Economy, a lawsuit, a draft of the lawsuit, which will go to the government of the Slovak Republic, which will approve it, and then the entire process will continue accordingly belongs to it.
Mr. Prime Minister, besides filing a lawsuit with the European Court of Justice, what other steps does the government intend to take to prevent the disaster you described from occurring after the year 2027 at the beginning in case the war does not end?
I want to remind again that we have a contract with Russian partners until 2034 for the import of gas. And today, the import of gas is no longer the majority, it is minority. If we look at the overall structure of gas imports to Slovakia, only a minority of gas now comes through Turkstream. The problem mainly lies in the fact that if these taps are completely shut off, it could lead to a problem of commodity shortage and a rise in price. We will do what we can. We will fill up storage tanks, and will be sending tokens of gratitude to Ursula von der Leyen. What should I do? We did everything we could. We have interconnectors. Madam Editor, if you want to ask about such serious topics, you should know that we have connected with the whole world. We have an interconnector with Poland, a connection with Austria, with the Czech Republic, a connection with Hungary. This means we are capable of supplying gas for our own consumption. But the gas can be significantly more expensive, and it seems that these decisions themselves are influencing gas prices on world markets. And what bothers us the most is that here there is a massive infrastructure that runs through the territory of Slovakia, which will be dry. Simply put, there will be a pipeline through which tens of billions of cubic meters of gas used to flow westward, where we made a lot of money, and we were completely excluded due to ideological perspectives. It is essentially because of hatred. Hatred today dominates European foreign policy. So gas for domestic consumption. That domestic consumption, to give you some numbers, is somewhere between 4 to 5 billion cubic meters. It's not a fundamental problem. We can source it from somewhere. However, if there isn't enough of the commodity, there will be enormous pressure for the price of this commodity to rise. We have a stable agreement with the Russian Federation for gas supplies until 2034 at its specific prices. The European Commission is depriving us, and likewise, the Commission did not help us with transit, nor did it help us with anything. The Commission doesn't even assist with the high electricity prices, so please, don't ask me what will happen after 2027. We will make everything to make it good. But what will happen after November 2027, I don't know. I just hope that by November 2027, the war will be over. And if the war ends by November 2027, everything will be different. Everything.
So we have done enough until now to ensure that we gradually cut ourselves off from the Russian gas.
You are not listening to us. I said that we are connected with all sides. South, north, everywhere. Everything is interconnected. Everything. Anyway, several European energy companies did not file a lawsuit with the European Court of Justice, but rather against the Russian company Gazprom for non-delivery of gas in 2022. So the question is whether we in Slovakia should have taken these steps. You harbor the same hatred in your head towards everything. If I may, Slovakia is a sovereign country. If I were to follow what Germany is doing, or what France is doing, or other countries, we would be in trouble. You know, I am not Mr. Semeka Jr., who claims that the Slovak economy is dragging down the entire European economy. If I were to say such nonsense, then I would have headlines in the newspapers for 3 months. The biggest problem for Slovakia is the absolute economic decline in Germany, France, and other countries that we are dependent on. I am supposed to take these countries as a model. Slovakia had good contracts. The gas was flowing. We were making money from it. We lost everything because of ideology and hatred towards Russia. Are we filing a lawsuit? Please, do not give me examples of other Western countries. I am the Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic, and I will defend Slovak national and state interests. Slovak national and state interests. I am asking the question, what might happen after November 1st, 2027? Especially the frightening dependence on American liquefied natural gas. That will be very brutal. And also, if we do not resolve the level of tariff charges, it will hurt us very much. It will hurt us economically. And we are all praying so that there is enough commodity so that another conflict does not arise somewhere, which will cause tensions in the gas market.